Hey everyone, and welcome to my very first solo YouTube video and first versus matchup. This is Magnanimous. If you have any recommendations or requests to help me improve, please leave a comment. Let's get started. I'm going to be using Darth Maul during the Clone Wars after Season 5 and after the latest comic he featured in, Son of Dathomir, where he has his new upgraded robotic legs and a darksaber. I'm also going to be allowing him to use a saber star from Episode 1 rather than a normal lightsaber. Darth Maul is a Zabrakian male who was born 54 years before the Battle of Yavin on the planet Dathomir, so he's going to be roughly 34 years old in this fight. He was taken at a very young age by Darth Sidious to be trained as his secret apprentice. Maul was then pushed to his limits, being constantly tortured and beaten. He was trained more of a Sith assassin than a Sith Lord. He was also trained in many martial arts and was a deadly killer even without a lightsaber. Maul was also trained in Teras Kasi, a martial art designed for normal beings to fight Force sensitives, to give themselves great speed and strength, the idea being to predict Force attacks and dodge them. His species is more physically capable than ordinary humans. Zabraks also have 2 hearts and a much higher pain threshold. Maul was even able to train himself to resist Force lightning at a certain degree. As seen in a Darth Maul comic, before Phantom Menace, he was able to defeat a Night Sister while she blasted him with her lightning. He was trained in all forms of combat. He was ordered before the Phantom Menace took place to cripple the powerful crime gang known as the Black Sun. He has many amazing feats that are similar to Batman's physical accomplishments, except his actually makes sense because Maul isn't human. One of my favorite feats of Maul is when he had an injured arm from wrestling a Wampa. When he was in a grapple with the beast, he shoved his hand through its stomach, up into its ribcage, and crushed its heart with his bare hands. When Darth Plagueis found out about Maul, he said he could live as long as he was trained as an assassin, not a Sith apprentice. Maul was a powerful weapon. He has cunning knowledge and tactics and trained by one of the most powerful Sith Lords ever. He has even survived being cut in half and fell all the way to the core of the planet, Naboo, and survived 10 years before being found by his brother Savage, which soon after he was given his robotic limbs. Darth Maul is one of the fiercest and deadliest warriors in the galaxy. Grievous was originally called Quaimayan Jai Shilal. Grievous was born on a planet called Kali. Grievous' species is named Kalish. He lived his early life during the Kalish conflict against the Hawk. Quaimayan Jai Shilal quickly learned the art of war, specializing in a slug-thrower rifle. He killed many Hawk and was praised a war hero and became a demigod among his people. He would then meet the female Kalish, Rondiru Lij Kumar, a master with the sword. The two became very close before her death at the hands of the Hawk. Heartbroken, Quaimayan Jai Shilal renamed himself Grievous and then turned all his anger and grief towards the Hawk. He led the Kali and forced the Hawk off the planet and then swarmed their world, conquering the Hawk homeworld. The Hawk turned to the Galactic Republic for help, and the Kalish were forced back to their own world by the Jedi and left to starve. Desperate to help his people, Grievous took a job as an enforcer while the intergalactic banking clan. However, after learning that the Hawk had attacked Kali, he headed home. IBC Chairman San Hill, after consulting with his ally, Count Dooku, leader of the Confederacy, arranged for a bomb to be placed on Grievous' shuttle. Grievous was critically injured but lived, and Hill arranged for the final stage of his plan. Grievous was to be reconstructed as a cyborg and presented to Dooku as a potential weapon to be used in the upcoming war. At first, he hated his body and became enraged when he was ever called a droid. He grew to like his body because he was able to perform superhuman feats, and he thought he might be able to kill the Jedi. His mechanical body is resistant to blast fire and very fast and strong. His body also moved in unnatural ways, which put many Jedi by surprise, which is one of the reasons he killed so many Jedi. One of Grievous's greatest feats is taking on 5 Jedi and killing 2 of them, perhaps more if the clones hadn't saved them. Because I think the General Grievous Clone Wars version is really weak and useless, I'm going to focus on the 2003 Clone Wars and the Revenge of the Sith version. The first form of lightsaber combat is called Shi-Cho, which is the basic form that all Jedi are taught. Masters of the form are given a larger range of attacks and a very well balanced style, and is very effective when dealing with multiple opponents. Form 2 is Makashi, a graceful form that involves precise movements and quick, small cuts and stabs to beat your opponent. Instead of just blocking your opponent's attacks with equal force, the point is to redirect their attacks. It is also designed for one-on-one duels, although true masters of the form like Darth Tyrannus can manage it. It is also used with a slightly curved lightsaber, and to hold it with one hand for more maneuverability. Form 3, Surisu, is the most defensive form and was created to harmlessly block blast fire, but was implemented into lightsaber combat. The goal for a Form 3 specialist was to last longer than your opponent by saving your energy and letting your opponent tire their self out. True masters like Obi-Wan train themselves to use as little energy as possible and keep their heartbeat at a resting pace. Form 4, Ataru, is a fast-paced and moving form, and takes the saying, if you keep moving, your opponent will have a hard time hitting you. The form is about performing acrobatic flips and twirls to add power to your strikes, as well as mid-air attacks, and also flourishes to confuse your opponent to open them up to attack. Form 5 is broken into 2 variants. The first one is Gem-So, which is an offensive form that is about using strong, powerful attacks to smash through your opponent's defense. It requires a lot of strength and endurance. Also, defending attacks with solid blocks, then immediately countering. The second is Shien, a style created to redirect blaster fire back at the shooter. Form 6, Naman, is a balanced style that takes components out of all styles and adds force-based attacks while fighting. Masters of the form are extremely versatile and strong combatants. Form 7 is also broken into 2 styles. The original style is Juyo. It is the most aggressive and energetic style of all the forms. It involves bold but direct attacks to quickly overwhelm your opponent. It is a form that brings users closer to the dark side. Jedi are highly advised not to take it. The second style was created by Mace Windu, who is a darker Jedi, who developed it to let his inner darkness flow rather than cage it. The style is dangerous for Jedi because it requires users to tap into the dark side to make it effective. Its speciality is to siphon your opponent's dark energy and use it as your own. It is a style for people who love being in battle and requires great focus. General Grievous stands at over 2.16 meters or 7 feet tall if he stood up straight. Before he became a cyborg, he was a great warrior and skilled in shooting and fighting. He is also a very impressive strategist. When he first revealed himself 6 months after the Clone Wars started, he outmatched the 5 Jedi armies and surrounded them, which is when he fought them himself and killed 3 and a Padawan. Before that, he led his armies to drive off the Hawk of Kali. He was taught the 7 forms by Darth Tyrannus. He was able to learn these forms at an insane rate due to tampering with Grievous's brain, allowing him to memorize and perform all forms and switch or mix the forms.
If you are to succeed in combat against the best of the Jedi, you must have fear, surprise, and intimidation on your side.
What makes Grievous unique is his robotic limbs. He used it to his advantage by using unorthodox moves and attacks. His body moved in unnatural ways compared to a human. This threw off many Jedi who were very surprised by Grievous' speed and strength. As you can see, the incredible rapid strikes Grievous can dish out, as well as the ability to wield 4 lightsabers at a time. This allowed Grievous to just destroy his opponents. Grievous is a nearly unstoppable force, being able to predict force attacks most of the time, and to even overwhelm some Jedi Masters. Darth Maul was taught by Darth Sidious and Darth Plagueis in lightsaber combat. Both were some of the best lightsaber wielders in their era. He was taught all the lightsaber forms but mastered Juyo, the 7th form that is the most offensive and aggressive style that consists of very bold and direct attacks. He also mastered Jarkai, dual blade fencing, and Teras Kasi. He was also trained in Form 6, Niman, a balanced style that utilizes force-based attacks while fighting with a lightsaber. Maul is extremely athletic and acrobatic. He chose a saber staff that consists of 4 red kyber crystals so he could activate one blade at a time, or both. Also, if it was cut in half, it continued to function. The saber staff does not offer a large range of attacks compared to a standard lightsaber, but does offer a different set of attacks. Maul chose it because he thought it suited his very aggressive and acrobatic style, as he thought he could do more with it than using a standard lightsaber. Darth Maul also used many punches and kicks while fighting with a lightsaber. He was a very physical fighter and only used force abilities as a backup, as he thought he looked weak and desperate. Maul was very disciplined with the force and had great control, although he was never taught any powerful Sith attacks like Force Lightning. He has only perfected the intermediate skills such as telekinesis at a high level, Force Choke, and Force Grip, but his extreme training and focus makes him a formidable opponent. He has killed Qui-Gon Jinn, a skilled and experienced Jedi Master. He's fought 6 skilled mercenaries and assassins, and killed them all in a matter of seconds. Fought the leader of Death Watch, Pre Vizsla, and won. He was also able to fight both Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan simultaneously, and even able to kill Qui-Gon Jinn, although he was around 60. I think Maul's biggest loss was when he lost to Obi-Wan in Phantom Menace. I think he largely lost to plot reasons and to have a good, fun, simple ending, because Maul could block blast fire shots, which according to Mythbusters travel around 130 miles an hour. So it seems ridiculous to make him unable to cut Obi-Wan down when he jumped up and over him. I think the reason was because he was overconfident and lost focus. During the Clone Wars series, Maul returned and caught up on his training and able to use his robotic legs to his advantage, and seemed to keep up his agility. His lightsaber skills were improved. This is shown in Maul's one-on-one duel with Sidious. He matched Sidious strike for strike, which proves Maul could match Grievous when wielding 4 lightsabers, although there is no certainty on how hard Sidious is trying. I know Maul wouldn't beat Sidious unless he had a lot more training and knowledge, but the fight was extremely fast and I think Maul was going as hard as he could, but Sidious was probably only going at around 70%. He looked like he was just testing Maul, but there's a possibility he didn't want to risk being killed by Maul, which is why he resorted to using the Force to end the match. Okay, this is a hypothetical battle of how I think the fight would play out. This battle is going to happen on the green planet Takodana in episode 7. Both opponents would stare at each other with their glowing yellow eyes. Both would draw their weapons. Grievous would only wield 2 lightsabers, Maul igniting his saber staff with his dark saber on his belt. They charge at immense speed and clash in a flash of light and high-pitched sounds. both evenly parrying and then striking. Maul would perform multiple flips and twirls and strike Grievous from above, but Grievous would dodge or meet Maul's blade with his own. As soon as Maul lands, Grievous would go on the offensive, ferociously twirling and slashing at Maul like a demon. Maul would struggle to parry and would try to kick Grievous in the abdomen, but Grievous would shrug it off. Maul would stay focused and keep up, but he needed to put some space between Grievous. Grievous would keep attacking and precisely striking until he kicks Maul in the chest, hurling Maul back. Maul would barely have a second to recover, as Grievous leaps toward him, preparing for a final strike. Maul harnesses the Force and telekinetically pushes Grievous back into a tree. Maul would stand up, regathering his thoughts. Grievous, looking angry and growling, walks to Maul. Maul tries to force push Grievous back, but Grievous digs his claw-like feet into the soil and, crouching, allows him to hold his ground. Maul stops and readies his weapon. Grievous' skeleton face trained on Maul's devil-like figure. They both lunge at each other and lock blades. Grievous laughs at Maul and his arms separate into four and grab two more lightsabers. Grievous pushes Maul back and does a battle pose. He then spins all blades and furiously trying to kill Maul. Maul, gritting his teeth, would be frantically dodging and parrying, being on his back foot the entire time. Maul flips backwards and telekinetically grabs chunks from a nearby tree and hurls them at Grievous. Grievous would easily slice through them and keep advancing. Maul would then brace himself as Grievous bears down on him, but Maul would not be overwhelmed and keep enduring. The scene would be an amazing flourish of red, blue, and green, both whirling and spinning their blades in a monstrous way, skillfully blocking and dodging, neither gaining a clear advantage, until they lock sabers. Grievous would deactivate one of his lightsabers and put his hand past Maul's lightsaber, about to activate it again into Maul's heart, but Maul quickly spins his lightsaber and cuts off Grievous' hand. Maul would then attack and start a barrage of strikes. Soon after, another of Grievous' hand would get chopped off. Grievous would stagger back and growl in disgust. They would keep battling. Maul would slip up and Grievous would end up cutting his saber staff in half and stab Maul in the stomach. Maul would then be enraged and summon more darkside power and push Grievous back, causing him to flip over until he skidded to a stop. Maul would draw out his darksaber. Maul, now wielding two lightsabers, jumps towards Grievous, preparing a strike. Grievous would sidestep the attack and engage, both rapidly clashing their lightsabers. Maul would add kicks and acrobatic flips to add more power to his strikes. Grievous switching between lightsaber styles to gain an upper hand, and unnaturally moving and smashing into Maul's blades. Grievous would knock Maul's saber staff out of his hand and keep pressing Maul. Maul would use the Force to try and pick up his darksaber, but Grievous would Sparta kick Maul, causing him to fly backwards. Maul would try to avoid Grievous by diving in and out of trees, force pushing chunks of wood into Grievous. Maul jumps back near his darksaber, putting space between them. He then tries to force crush Grievous. Grievous falls to his knees, gagging. His armor and body is damaged. Maul raises his lightsaber, walks towards Maul. Grievous stands up and they clash for the last time, but Grievous is struggling. Maul is tired, but his ridiculous endurance and pain threshold sustains him. Grievous slips up and loses two more hands. Grievous, hopeless against the skill of Darth Maul. With a flick of a wrist, he would slice Grievous' hand, then cutting across his legs. Grievous, lying on the floor, is yelling and grunting in anger and hatred. Maul retrieves his darksaber and finally decapitates the great Kaleesh warrior and cyborg general of the CIS. And with that conclusion, I give you your victor, the Sith assassin and one of the greatest warriors in the galaxy, Darth Maul. Well, that's it, and I hope you agreed with my verdict, and please like, subscribe, and this is Magnanimous. Feel free to watch our other videos, and thank you.